Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of Signals from Mars. Joining me today is Jeff Phillips from the bands Deeper Graves and Bringers of Death. I'm going to be talking to him about both new albums that have one has come out. Deeper Graves, Pull Me Towards the Dark, is already out, and Bringers of Death, Sulfur, comes out next month. We're recording this in March. How important is it for you to have all these different outlets that you have for music?
Um, I wouldn't say that it's super important since some of them are kind of similar, but I guess it's just mostly I don't know, I just consistently like to put stuff out and I feel like I'm generally always working around someone else's schedule, so it's a lot easier to have multiple projects instead of having one since majority of them are not busy and don't tour anymore.
Okay.
So it's just kind of filling my time.
Okay. Got you. Is there anything that you haven't released? You've been a part of a lot of different projects or bands over the years. Is there anything that you've done that you want to release or that you want to record that you haven't touched on before in any of your bands?
I mean, I guess it's not necessarily like a sound or anything that I'm usually looking to do. Is mostly just if I haven't done something with a specific friend for a while, then it just either kind of comes up, or if I haven't revisited a project in a while, it'll be that. I kind of feel like I got into the routine of with certain bands like putting out records every year, and I feel like maybe it was kind of a detriment to the project. So like I'm kind of doing new things so I can space out records, at least a couple years with specific things. So
Okay. What's it like to run Disorder Recordings? What has that allowed you to do as an artist?
I mean it's just kind of started. I had a band at one point, and we weren't going to have vinyl for it, and we were going to start touring. And I was talking to Dave because I've worked with Dave for like 20 years at this point, and he's like, "Well, you could just do it yourself." And I never really thought about it, and I could just kind of came up with the name on the spot talking to him because Disorder by Joy Division was playing on stereo, and it just kind of started as something. If someone didn't want to put out the vinyl, or if they didn't want to put something out that I had recorded, it was just a way for me to do it myself. And I guess that's just kind of been the best part of it, is I don't really have to deal with anyone else having any decision in any of it, or pushing it back until next year because of weights on vinyl, etc. Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've worked with Dave for 20 years now. He's done every record I've ever done, and he's really the only one that I have to answer to for anything. So,
Oh, okay. Cool. Um, is there any specific like switch that you have to flick off in your head to switch between being an artist or having to do stuff from the label side of things, or it just is
no,
what
I mean, the only real thing that I've had to think about, and especially the last couple years, is I mean, I'm just not really moving the physical copies that I was at some point. So I mean, it's kind of hard for me to take $2,000 or $3,000 and go press vinyl if I'm only going to sell 50 of them. Um, but I mean, otherwise, as far as some if something's good, I'm just going to put it out. I mean, if it's someone else's, if it's mine and I like it, I'm going to put it out. I don't really think about things. Are people going to like this? Or people not going to like it? But the financials of it have definitely changed over the last couple of years. So
okay. Yeah, that's something that we talk about a lot on my show. There's a whole ton of vinyl behind me, and a lot of the people that follow my show are, vinyl collectors, and how the price has gone up so much that it's, becoming difficult to buy a lot of the stuff that maybe we were buying 5, 10 years ago.
yeah,
And what you're saying makes total sense. I mean, I've been in bands, I've interviewed so many bands over the years, and you've got that classic story of having 1,000 CDs in your closet because you had
yeah,
to buy 1,000 when you really only wanted to print up 300, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and that's why the price has gone up too. I mean, when we used to press, 500 copies as a first pressing of something, I mean, now like I'm pressing 100 of something and, the price per unit goes way up. So you have to charge 25 instead of 20, just, kind of break even on it when it comes to the PR and, the art and all of that and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
But that's a reasonable price. I mean, we're talking about things that are being put out by bands nowadays that are 40, 50, 60
yeah.
bucks. Um,
Yeah. I went to a record store a couple days ago and I bought 2 records and I spent $90, you know?
wow. Yeah, and then you have other people releasing vinyl for 100 bucks, which I think is ridiculous. As much as I like a band, it has to be really special for me to spend 100 bucks on a vinyl.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. It's like I feel like this industry at this point is just like you basically have to be a legacy band to make any money. So I mean, they're just
Right.
rehashing the one record they put out 30 years ago that people still like. A record at this point is just kind of like it's something to get you on the road and make money. You
Yeah.
know, and as
Oh,
someone who doesn't really tour anymore, like there's just not much money to be had, to be honest.
yeah, but this is from a large scale touring band that just released a live album,
Oh
who just got their live album on Netflix as well. And you're
yeah.
like, really, 100 bucks for a fucking live album? Love the band, but just
Yeah, I put one on a couple years ago. I think it's probably still $20, but it obviously didn't have like a bunch of stuff inside of it. So
yeah. Well, but how much do you think this is, you know, bigger labels and stuff like that taking advantage of the fact that there are collectors that are willing to pay that
yeah,
amount of money for things?
or buy an album half a dozen times. Yeah,
Or buy an album half a dozen times.
yeah,
That's the other thing that kills me, is that you see people that say, "Well, the '90s was the decade where the most amount of music was sold." Right, because you had people buy shit on cassette,
yeah,
vinyl, CD, the remastered version. Oh, we didn't, take it from the original tapes and master it correctly on the CD, so you had 2 or 3 versions of that CD. So yeah, exactly what you're saying. You have 15 copies of something because people, there are collectors out there that have a lot of disposable income and will buy those 15 copies in different colored vinyl and whatnot. But
yeah. I mean, that's something that I will definitely not do because once I put something out, unless I have to relearn it to play a show, I generally won't listen to it again. So I
right.
mean, unless or if I, sometimes I'll come up with something new and I feel like it might be similar to something that I did before, so I'll re-listen to it then. But otherwise, if I don't have to relearn it on guitar, I just generally won't listen to it again unless I
Is
got to make like clips for social media or something.
Yeah.
But
Is that more to make sure that you're not kind of copying yourself, making sure that,
I
you
mean,
keep
I've copied myself 100 times, but you can make it different enough when you because I mean I kind of generally think with percussion more than I do anything else. So I could write the same riff through a whole song and change the drum beat 4 times and no one really notices.
Gotcha.
I've done that a lot. I mean, that's most of the Deeper Graves record. I mean, it's all pretty much the same structure the entire way for like one whole song. It's just, adding stuff, subtracting stuff, changing the drum beat, putting a vocal on it, putting a solo here and there. And I've kind of always done that. So,
Oh, okay. Did you start by learning how to play the drums first, and that's why you approach it that way, or
oh no, I've always been a guitar player. It's just in recent years, mostly like since the pandemic, I've just kind of given up on the whole like band thing being the only way to do it and just kind of trying to do everything myself as much as I can, which was kind of the idea for this one to not have any guests at all and do all the artwork myself and the photography and everything.
okay. What's the hardest thing for you to write when you're working by yourself?
Lyrics because I hate lyrics. I feel like all of my lyrics are terrible. I don't really like doing vocals either. but I mean, it's just kind of a necessity for this. And I
Right.
kind of wanted to, this time around, I just kind of wanted to do it myself instead of getting someone else to do it just to see if I could do it.
Yeah.
I feel like the last two records don't, there's like a song here, a song there where I do a verse on it, but it's mostly just kind of like hook parts in the chorus or like kind of like, like a choir type voice or something like that, oohs and ahs. But
Right.
this one I tried to write verses for everything. So
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So outside of that, I mean, this is your third album as Deeper Graves. Was there anything else that you kind of set out to do specifically with this album? I mean, do you chart a course, or is everything that you record on these albums just whatever comes out at the time that you're writing for it?
I feel like a lot of time, like the first and last song come first, and then I just kind of work my way towards the middle from there. But this one was actually, I have another record coming out with a different band later this year, and we didn't use a few songs, so I used some of those for this album, and then just kind of re-recorded them and changed the vibe, rearranged them, and then put my vocals on it instead of what would have been a different singer. So I just kind of worked off of those. Like generally, if I have like a more upbeat song or two or three upbeat songs and no slower songs, I'll try to write a slower one just to kind of balance things.
Mhm.
Um, but like a general vibe doesn't. I don't really start with that. Just songs just kind of come to me, and I record the ideas, and then I just kind of work off the ideas that I have to make sure that it's enjoyable all the way through, instead of focusing on like singles or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's interesting that you mentioned that because the closing track to Sulfur, for example, March of the Burning Tower, I was listening to that and I'm like, this isn't that far removed from Deeper Graves. This could, because of the kind of the atmospheric approach to it, it felt like something that although not exactly the same,
Yeah,
had you have, like you're saying, had you have used different vocals on that, could have easily been on the Deeper Graves album as well.
yeah. All of the songs for that record, my friend Jason, who I've been friends with for like 25 years, he had this project like 15 years ago, and then it just kind of went dormant. But he had some song ideas, so he came out like 2 years ago at this point, and we just kind of arranged everything. And where there were holes, like I kind of filled some spots with guitar riffs, and then sat on it and had like overdubs and stuff like that, and just kind of helped him arrange. And then we kind of sat on it and waited for the vocalist to get his lyrics done, and I kind of added stuff in between there too. So it's kind of like been a longer process than I'm used to, but yeah, like we listen to similar stuff, so like I feel like these metal bands and like more of like the post punk stuff can kind of be intertwined as well if you change the tones or whatnot. And I mean, I guess I've played on so much stuff at this point that I probably have a bit of a style too that's kind of goes throughout all of them, even if it's completely different sounds.
Yeah. Okay. So when you wrote the Deeper Graves album, how long did that more or less take you to write the entire album?
Um, some of the songs were written like 2 years ago, and then some of them were written very recently. Dave and I kind of had this plan this year because I wanted to do like 4 or 5 records that we had to not have them overlap too much. So technically, this record, the Deeper Graves record, was supposed to come out later this year, and then I had some delays on other stuff, so I kind of just finished it pretty quickly and had that one come out in February as opposed to another one.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, like I said, some of the songs were written for a different project, and that was like a year or two ago. So, but the newer stuff was written, probably over a span of like 2 or 3 months at the most.
Okay.
I generally am pretty quick if I have time outside of, work and all of the animals at my house and my wife and stuff like that, that I can come up with half a dozen basic ideas like in a night if things are flowing well. And then I just kind of, you know, I can arrange from there. Not all of them stick, but sometimes there's nothing too. So just
Right.
kind of depends.
Do you typically write for one project at a time, or as the ideas are flowing, do you have things that you have to channel and kind of, all right, this will work for this band, this will work for the other band, so you kind of carp you kind of
Yeah,
put things
I
aside
get.
to work further.
Yeah, I get. I mean, I think at one point, like last year, I had like 8 or 9 project files on my desktop and kind of all chipping away a little bit here and there. Um, I guess it just kind of depends on. I mean, like I said, sometimes I don't have anything at all, but then other times it's like, oh well, this will fit there, that'll fit there, or I'll just work on one thing at a time. I guess it just depends. It's not. I don't really sit down and ever like try to write. It's like
Right.
I'll have an idea and then they just kind of spill out. So
Okay. And it's cool the way that you're describing things that, I mean, you can kind of take an idea and then if need be, if it doesn't work for one band, you can pivot quick enough that you can find a place where it's gonna fit within your whole universe of music.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I generally work alone, but if I do have someone at the house, I'll specifically write for that. But I mean, otherwise, it's just you know, I just kind of know. So
Okay. Yeah, so with Sulfur, you're telling me that it was kind of a 2-year process as well. Um, was it kind of similar to, Pull Me Towards the Dark in the sense that things were you started writing things 2 years ago, and little by little, you started building up on those ideas that the other members were bringing in?
oh no, Jason and I pretty much wrote that entire record in like a weekend. That
Oh, okay.
at least like like the rhythm section, like I kind of programmed basic idea drums, and we had like the rhythm guitars and like probably most of the overdubs done in like 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
And then, I mean, kind of revamped them a little bit here and there afterwards. But I mean, all the other guys are really busy too. So, just getting schedules to line up is so difficult these days, especially I think we're in 4 different states.
Right.
So, and then Zach was obviously busy with Goat Horn, Acid Bath, and John, the bass player, is in several bands as well. So,
Was it, difficult to get those 2 on board for this given the other bands that they're committed to?
no, it was just a matter of finding the time, and the schedules to do it. And, uh, it was a lot easier. Like Zach, I think he did a lot of it like while he was on tour because I think he had an electronic kit with him. So I think he was like doing it while he was on the road. So
Gotcha, okay. And you knew you wanted to work with those guys and were
oh
willing
yeah,
to wait.
yeah, we've all been friends since like the mid 2000s. So
Okay. You're saying that you programmed a lot of those rhythm parts. How much of a say did they have with their final parts?
well, it was. I mean, everyone's always free to do whatever they want. I have a really hard time like putting songs together, writing songs unless I hear drums behind them. So like I would like play a blast beat on something, and he definitely changed quite a bit of stuff too. But like, it's kind of a rough reference, what I'm hearing in my head. But I mean, at the end, like everyone's free to do whatever they want. So, and then I just make it work from there when I'm mixing. So,
Okay. Did any of the things that you were getting back from them surprise you with those changes? You saying, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And that sounds better than what I thought was the original idea was.
well, I mean, that's one of the benefits from working with other people is generally people that are better at their instrument than you are come up with better ideas than you have initially. And
Right.
but at the same time, it's like I've played in bands with Zach and John since 2006, off and on. So it's like I kind of know where they're going to go generally. So,
Okay. You mentioned that you have more music coming out outside of these 2 albums. Is there anything else that you can mention at the moment, or does that have to kinda stay quiet for now?
uh, I mean, like I said, it's like running your own label. I don't really have anyone to answer to. So, I have after this Bringers of Disease record comes out at the end of April, the next week after will be announcing the third album that I have, and it's from like kind of similar to Deeper Graves. Like I said, some of the songs that didn't make it on or are going to be on that record. It's called The Secrecy. It's myself and Dustin Bulges that used to play drums for Skeleton Witch, but he's singing in this band.
Okay.
And then a couple guys from like an old like emo hardcore band called Endive. So it's more of like, like kind of a goth post-punk thing with a better singer. That'll come out at the end of June. And then myself and a guy who I used to be in a band called Wolfhammer with, Adam Clemens, we're doing another black metal project. And I'm hoping that's going to come out at the end of August. All the songs are written. I'm tracking drums with Greg Lom, who used to be in Mouth the Architect and several other bands. He's coming out here at the beginning of April to track drums. And then I have another band that I've had for a couple of years called Contrition. That's more like death metal grind thing. And we're going to try to do that one in October. We're like in the middle of tracking that right now. So,
okay.
And then I've got other stuff already lined up for next year. So
you're consistently busy.
Well, I mean, I took it most of 2023 and 2024 off. So I've just kind of been piling stuff for a while to kind of give it a push so I can take another break again, Gotcha. I don't like sitting on stuff for too long. If something sits on my hard drive for too long, I'd rather just get rid of it and start over.
Gotcha. Okay. And for you, what came first? The goth rock side of things or the extreme metal side of things?
I mean, I guess I first started listening to like kind of grunge music in the early 90s, and it kind of like went into The Cure as well. And then it kind of just graduated to like most, like the Norwegian bands. And then obviously the Florida scene was a thing for me too. And obviously getting kind of more underground and obscure from there. But yeah, it's mostly, I would say mostly early mid 90s.
Okay. Yeah, because there are very few bands, and I don't even think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm ignorant to this, but I think the closest band maybe to something like that is maybe a Paradise Lost that's dabbled in so many different types of music where they've had their goth, they've had their industrial side, they've definitely had their doom metal side that they've kind of come back to. And I mean, they've had growlier moments here and there. I mean, obviously not full on black metal, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah, great band.
Yeah. Cool. So if people want to pick up Deeper Graves or pre-order Sulfur, where should they go to ensure that the most amount of money gets back into your pockets?
All of my stuff is on disorder-recordings.com. It's pretty much everything I've done in the last, I don't know, let's see, 15 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah. Just if there's vinyl left, there's vinyl left. If there's CDs left, they're on there, or just everything digital. So.
Okay.
And then other people's bands as well that I, didn't have a label that I put out. I'm mostly just doing my stuff now, but there's several other bands that I thought were great and thought deserved someone to put money into them too. So.
Okay. And is that only distribution for the US, or can people from outside of the US order there as well?
It's all out of my house, so I'll ship anywhere.
Okay. Cool. And where should people go to keep up with you and all of your bands?
My screen printing is on Instagram at Disorder Design Co. And then I'm Chrome Waves 1 on Instagram, and pretty easy to find if you like the band. So
cool. Awesome. Well, I do want to thank you for your time today. The Deeper Graves album really jumped out at me right away when I started listening to the snippets that David sent to me. And I think it's so cool that there are a lot of bands that are going back to, that type of goth rock or The Cure, as you mentioned, Sisters of Mercy, things like that.
Yeah.
In the last few years, I think bands like On to Others, and I just interviewed a band out of Portland called Hoaxed, which is a
Seen
female.
the name before, but I don't think I've heard anything from them yet.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't the same, but I think that there's a lot of like influences that kind of intertwine
Yeah,
between both, and I think it's kind of cool to have, to kind of build like a modern soundtrack of bands that are really close to one another to kind of go along with some of these classics that we all love. So
yeah. I mean, I feel like all of the projects that I'm in that are sort of in this different genre, generally all with metal dudes. So
yeah,
it's just they're usually like in bigger bands. Like me and one of the guys from WADA have like a band that's almost like, I guess it's kind of like a Fields of the Nephilim, like kind of. I feel like it's like a metal version of like Pink Floyd too, like, lots of
right.
swirling like synths and stuff like that too. But it's always with metal bands and they just can't do it in their main band. So
Yeah, gotcha. That's cool. All right, Jeff. I thank you for your time.
yeah,
And
thank you for having me.
yeah, absolutely. I'll send the links to Dave once I have this posted.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, cool. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
All right, see you.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.